ladies and gentlemen, YouTube subscribers, One Wrestling fans tuning in worldwide. My name's Andre Corbeil. I am your Impact Wrestling, One Wrestling video reporter right here at the home of Bill Apter, OneWrestling.com, One Wrestling Video, and One Wrestling on Twitter. It's August 27th, fans. It's 2014, so it must be time for your Andre Corbeil, OneWrestling.com TNA Impact review. From New York City, now we kick off the evening with the Director of Wrestling Operations, none other than the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who basically in a nutshell promises to put on the best show tonight for the fans in attendance and the fans tuning in at home. Now he announces EC3 versus Rhino tonight in a grudge match. The Wolves versus the Hardys versus Team 3D, and I'm telling you, a lot of people tuned in tonight just for that match alone. Now Kurt also informs the fans that the number one contender controversy from last week will all be sorted out tonight on Impact Wrestling on Spike TV. But the TNA champion, none other than the Destroyer Bobby Lashley, Kenny King, and MVP, yes, they come out. And they basically tell Angle to go ahead, waste his time worrying about a controversy involving two Canadians, as MVP proceeds to cut a New York promo bashing the city, bashing its people, and then he talks up the champ, calling him the King of New York even. Now, all to be interrupted by Tommy Dreamer, who comes out, in a nutshell, tells all three men that they should be ashamed of themselves. Basically, he's attacked from behind by the Destroyer, and we end up with an impromptu New York street fight match with Tommy Dreamer facing the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, the Destroyer Bobby Lashley. First match of the night! Now, Bobby Lashley mowed through Tommy here, and the TNA World Champion continued his full speed ahead offense and his very credible title reign in New York City tonight. Now, he destroyed the Innovator of Violence in a good opening match here, like I said. Now, comment below, let me know if you guys like this match. I'm very interested to hear what you guys as wrestling fans, as knowledgeable, passionate wrestling fans, have to say pertaining or relating to this opener here on Impact Wrestling. We then pan into our Knockouts number one contenders match as the lovely, beautiful Taryn Terrell took on the Queen Bee. Yes, also beautiful Madison Rayne. Now, they battled it out for a shot at Gail Kim and her TNA Knockouts Championship. And I'll tell you something, fans, you can still see a little ring rust on Taryn, but you can clearly also see, on the other hand, in retrospect, that she's also getting back into her groove slowly each and every time she's in the ring. Now, this is a woman that never wrestled in the Six Sides before, so that may factor in as well, as both women went at it here for the title shot. Now, another thing I'd like to point out, fans, is the use of heel tactics tonight from one Madison Rayne. She did this a couple times throughout this match, which is a good thing, as Madison, I think, is a much better heel. So if her actions tonight represent or prelude a return to being a heel, Andre Corbeil is all for it. Are you all for it, fans? Comment below. Now, even though Taryn didn't wrestle all that well tonight, she capitalized here, hitting a cutter on Madison Rayne for the 1, the 2, and the 3 win here as your new number one contender to Gail Kim and her TNA Knockouts Championship. We then had Bobby Roode. We had Erick Young, who basically met up in Kurt Angle's empty office. Now, Kurt shows up and basically tells the camera crew to bounce, get out of Dodge, to leave. Now we roll on, and we end up having the continual transformation of one Samuel Shaw, who's all decked out, yes, in Gunner's personal military gear. All to be found by Gunner, who was not impressed at all. Basically told him to take it off before I take it off for you. Now, we roll into the 6-man X Division tag team match we had tonight as Homicide, as DJ Zima and Manic, yes, they tagged up going against Crazy Steve, Low Key, and last but not least, Tigre Uno, in a very fast-paced match, wrestling fans, that saw traditional X Division action brought forth here. As Tigre Uno, he looked good earlier on until DJ Zima interfered, turning the tide for the heels. Now Manic and Low Key also had a sweet offensive exchange here, and I really enjoyed it. Now, ultimately, it ended in a key crusher from Low Key on Manic, garnering the pin and the win for him, Tigre Uno, and Crazy Steve, as I guess the faces go over here. We then pan into Bobby Roode and Erick Young leaving Kurt Angle's office as Kurt comes out the door, looks at the camera crew, and says that the decision will be announced next. As we pan into Bobby Roode in the ring as he goes over the happenings from the past week, the decision made in Kurt Angle's office, and he goes on and proceeds to inform the fans confirms that both men, yes, will face each other in another number one contenders match taking place next week on Impact Wrestling, as both men basically agree that they're doing this all for the right reasons, as these two friends basically put each other over as the best there is in their own minds. Now, this was a nice moment, especially as a Canadian fan, as Bobby Roode says that next week on Impact, they're both going to tear the roof off this SOB. Now, we then get a quick bromance backstage segment, and we follow that up with our grudge match with Ethan Carter taking on the man-beast Rhino. Now, I had expected Rhino to be outsmarted in the end here, coming into this match, with the man-beast bringing forth the bulk of the offense throughout this match. But EC3 actually controlled the bulk of the offense over the first half of this match, but you know the score, you know the drill. The man-beast would not roll over that easily, as he had the driver's seat in the latter half of the match. But Spud's repeated interference a couple times didn't really have much effect, but with the illegal use of a chair by Ethan Carter III, yes, we got the young Ethan disqualified, as we saw another side of the young Carter as he snapped holding that chair, attacking the man-beast, and furthermore, almost hit Spud, yes, in this fit of rage. So, who knows what's going to happen? Is this a new side to Ethan Carter? Comment below, let me know what you guys perceive where they're going with this. Now, we then roll into the Cowboy, James Storm, and one of the most entertaining storylines right now in TNA, as he says, yes, he now leads a new revolution of men who need to be reborn, need a rebirth, an awakening, as he unveils the first of many, he says, who's none other than the great Sonata. Face paint and all. Now, being a great Muta mark growing up, as one of my top 10 favorites of all time, yes, the great Muta is one of my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. So, I was extremely pleased by this, as he took on Austin Aries, yes, the greatest man who ever lived, in a good match that saw both men on the verge of victory here. But when you factor in James Storm shaking the ropes while Austin Aries was atop getting ready to perch off, yes, and you factor in the green mist by Sonata, followed by his own version of the last call super kick, equaling a 1, a 2, and a 3, as Sonata cruises to victory here over one of the best wrestlers in the world. We then get our long-awaited TNA debut of the war hero Chris Melendez, yes, who shared his story in a very well-done reel, fans, that would make anyone proud, as we pan into Kurt Angle, Ken Anderson, Devon, and last but not least, Bully Ray in the ring, all waiting to welcome the new TNA superstar to thank you, Chris chants from the New York crowd. As Angle puts him over in a big way here and says that him winning his Olympic gold medal pales in comparison to what this man has done. Now, Anderson grabs the mic, sheds some light on the Wounded Warrior Project as his favorite charity, and then goes on to explain how he was instrumental in sending a tape to Bully and Devon's school. Cue in Bully Ray, who furthered the story and explained that him and Devon felt for this young man and trained Chris for free. Finally, Devon grabbed the mic, nice, short, and sweet, and welcomed him as an official member of the TNA Total Nonstop Action roster, ending a real feel-good moment, a great segment, even for this Canadian. Now we roll into what everyone was waiting for, everybody. Yes, the Hardys versus the Wolves versus Team 3D. And I'm telling you, I was really, really excited to this. There was lots of nostalgia wrapped around this, and yeah, 3-way tag team series that promises to be epic, wrestling fans. And mind you, the winner gets to pick the next stipulation in each furthering match. As Bully versus Davey started this off, and this was really good, fans. I can't stress it enough. Now the Hardys got in the fray with some great double teaming, followed by much of the same from Team 3D. Now, I gotta say that Davey Richards took one hell of a beating tonight in the ring, as he was in there for quite some time, as the Hardys worked their magic midway through. We then get a hot tag to Eddie Edwards finally, who changes the tide briefly, as all teams basically laid it all on the line here with variations, high spots, great double teaming. Now, they had the New York crowd chanting, "This is awesome, this is awesome," yet again. We get a double foot stomp, twist of hate, missile dives, swantons, and finally a 3D on Eddie Edwards, resulting in a 1, a 2, a 3 victory, and 3D, yes, they get the first stipulation and choice in this series. Now, does anyone sense a tables match coming next week? I digress. Now, wrestling fans, what did you think of this August 27, 2014 TNA Impact Wrestling show from New York City. Wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. I still think TNA's on fire, and they're definitely in their groove. Now, what's going to happen? Is Terrence Harrell going to win the Knockouts title? Is Gail Kim going to keep the Knockouts title? What's going to happen with Sonata? We know James Storm was talking about Sonata being one of many that are going to be reborn, reawakened. Now, who's going to fall into play next for James Storm's, we'll call it a faction, predetermined obviously, but I see this happening, guys. Maybe it's an X Division faction that James Storm's going to lead. Now, time will tell, and you know the score, you know the drill. I'm a knowledgeable, passionate wrestling fan. I know you guys supporting One Wrestling Video, OneWrestling.com, One Wrestling on Twitter, Andre_Corbeil on Twitter, at Can-Am Wrestling on Twitter, at Big Ray Show on Twitter. Our knowledgeable, passionate wrestling fans too. That's why I do what I do for each and every one of you guys. Tried, tested, and true. And my dedication will not stop because we're all in this for one thing. What's that, everybody? You know the score. You know the drill. Wrestling. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to One Wrestling. And we're all in this for one thing. Wrestling.